Welcome back. It's DJ's Chronicles. Today I'm jumping back into the Friedrich Nietzsche stuff. This is continuing with Human All Too Human. Uh, and I'm picking right back up in the section where I left off. It's called The History of the Moral Feeling. This is going to be 51 down to 57. How appearance becomes reality. The actor cannot, at last, refrain, even in moments of the deepest pain, from thinking of the effect produced by his deportment and by his surroundings. For example, even at the funeral of his own child, he will weep at his own sorrow and its manifestations, as though he were his own audience. The hypocrite who always plays one and the same part finally ceases to be a hypocrite, as in the case of priests who, when young men, are always, either conscientiously or unconscientiously, hypocrites, and finally become naturally, and then really, without affectation, mere priests. Or if the father does not carry it to this extent, the son, who inherits his father's calling and gets the advantage of the paternal progress, does. When anyone, during a long period and persistently, wishes to appear something, it will at last prove difficult for him to be anything else. The calling of almost every man, even of the artist, begins with hypocrisy, with an imitation of deportment, with a copying of the effective in manner. He who always wears the mask of a friendly man must at last gain a power over friendliness of disposition, without which the expression itself of friendliness is not to be gained. And finally, friendliness of disposition gains the ascendancy over him. He is benevolent. 52. The power point of honor in deception. In all great deceivers, one characteristic is prominent, to which they owe their power. In the very act of deception, amid all the accompaniments, the agitation in the voices, the agitation in the voice, the expression, the bearing, in the crisis of the scene, there comes over them a belief in themselves. This it is that acts so effectively and irresistibly upon the beholders. Founders of religions differ from such great deceivers in that they never come out of this state of self-deception, or else they have, very rarely, a few moments of enlightenment in which they are overcome by doubt. Generally, however, they soothe themselves by ascribing such moments of enlightenment to the evil adversary. Self-deception must exist, that both classes of deceivers may attain far-reaching results. For men believe in the truth of all that is manifestly believed with due implicitness by others. 53. Presumed degrees of truth. One of the most usual errors of deduction is because someone truly and openly is against us, therefore he speaks the truth. Hence, the child has faith in the judgments of its elders, the Christian in the assertions of the founder of the church. So, too, it will not be admitted that all for which men sacrificed life and happiness in former centuries was nothing but delusion. Perhaps it is alleged these things were degrees of truth. But what is really meant is that if a person sincerely believes a thing and has fought and died for his faith, it would be too unjust if only delusion had inspired him. Such a state of affairs seems to contradict eternal justice. For that reason, the heart of a sensitive man produces against his head the judgment. Between moral conduct and intellectual insight, there must always exist an inherent connection. It is unfortunately otherwise, for there is no eternal justice. 54. Falsehood. Why do men, as a rule, speak the truth in the ordinary affairs of life? Certainly, not for the reason that a god has forbidden lying, but because first, it is more convenient, as falsehood entails invention, make believe, and recollection. Wherefore, Swift says that whoever invents a lie seldom realizes the heavy burden he takes up. He must, namely, for every lie that he tells, insert 20 more. Therefore, because in plain ordinary relations of life, it is expedient to say without circumlocution. Okay. Circumlocution. I want this. I have done this. And the like. Therefore, because the way of freedom and certainty is surer than that of ruse. But if it happens that a child is brought up in sinister domestic circumstances, it will then indulge in falsehood as a matter of course, and involuntarily say anything its own interests may prompt. An inclination for truth, an aversion to falsehood, is quite foreign and uncongenial to it, and hence it lies in all innocence. 55. Ethic discredited for faith's sake. No power can sustain itself when it is represented by mere humbugs. The Catholic Church may possess ever so many worldly sources of strength, but its screw might is compromised in those still numberless priestly natures who make their lives stern and strenuous, and whose looks, emaciated bodies are eloquent of night vigils, fasts, ardent prayer, perhaps even of whiplashes. These things make men tremble and cause them anxiety. What if it be really imperative to live thus? This is the dreadful question. which their aspect occasions. As they spread this doubt, they lay anew the prop of their power. Even the free thinkers dare not oppose such disinterestedness with severe truth, and cry, "Thou deceived one, deceive not!" Only the difference of standpoint separates them from him. No difference in goodness or badness, but things we cannot accomplish ourselves. We are apt to criticize unfairly. Thus, we were told of the cunning and perverted acts of the Jesuits, but we overtook the self-mastery that each Jesuit imposes upon himself, and also the fact that the easy life which the Jesuit manuals advocate is for the benefit, not of the Jesuits, but the laity. Indeed, it may be questioned whether we enlightened ones would become equally competent workers as a result of similar tactics and organization, and equally worthy of admiration as the result of self-mastery, indefatigable industry, and devotion. 56. Victory of knowledge over radical evil. It proves a material gain to him who would attain knowledge to have had during a considerable period the idea that mankind is radically bad and perverted thing. It is a false idea, as is its opposite, but it long held sway, and its roots have reached down even to ourselves and our present world. In order to understand ourselves, we must understand its. But in order to attain a loftier height, we must step above it. We then perceive that there is no such thing as sin in the metaphysical sense, but also, in the same sense, no such thing as virtue. That this whole domain of ethical notions is one of constant variation. That there are higher and deeper conceptions of good and evil, moral and immoral. Whoever desires no more of things than knowledge of them attains speedily to peace of mind, and will at most err through lack of knowledge, but scarcely through eagerness for knowledge, or through sin, as the world calls it. He will not ask that eagerness for knowledge be interdicted and rooted out, but his single and powerful ambition to know as thoroughly and as fully as possible will soothe him and moderate all that is strenuous in his circumstances. Moreover, he is now rid of a number of disturbing notions. He is no longer beguiled by such words as hell pain, sinfulness, unworthiness. He sees in them merely the flitting shadow picture of false views of life and of the world. 57. Ethic as man's self-analysis. A good author whose heart is really in his work, wishes that someone would arise and wholly refute him, if only thereby his subject be wholly clarified and made plain. The maid in love wishes that she could attest the fidelity of her own passion through the faithlessness of her beloved. The soldier wishes to sacrifice his life on the field of his fatherland's victory, for in the victory of his fatherland, his highest end is attained. The mother gives her child what she deprives herself of: sleep, the best nourishment, and in certain circumstances, her health, herself. But are all these acts unegoistic? Are these moral deeds miracles? Because they are, in Skolfiner's phrase, impossible and yet accomplished? It is not evident that in all four cases man loves one part of himself, a thought, a longing, an experience, more than he loves another part of himself, that he thus analyzes his being and sacrifices one part of it to another part. In this essentially different form, the behavior of obstinate man who says, I would rather be shot than go a step out of my way for this fellow. Preference for something, wish, impulse, longing, is presented in all four instances. To yield to it, with all its consequences, is not unegoistic. In the domain of ethical, man conducts himself not as individuum, but as dividum. All right, that's all I'm going to do for today, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'll try to pick up a continuation of this very soon. But I'll see you next time, and I hope it didn't do too bad. Bye.